ladies and gentlemen of the press. I invited you today to deal only with a few issues that I thought that there's a lot of distortion taking place in the media, and I thought I should deal with it because the media, of course, probably doesn't see the responsibility of pointing out some of the inaccuracies that is coming from the opposition side. So I thought that I should probably try to clear it up myself. First of all, let me just make one point clear about Parliament. I'll make a distinction between the National Assembly and Parliament, because I find that the media in particular tend to use it interchangeably, and that is not so. The National Assembly are the elected members of the National Assembly, but the Parliament is the National Assembly and the President. And that is the difference between Parliament and the National Assembly. So the decisions of Parliament has a process. The National Assembly must pass laws, and then the Constitution also gives the President the right to assent or don't give his assent to these laws. And largely because I think it's quite logical, if it's the executive that is expected to carry out or implement these laws and so forth, then that is a prerogative that the Constitution has given to the President. Now recently I've been seeing in the press, particularly with the return of the financial papers to the National Assembly, there's a lot of talk of unconstitutionality of it. And while I'm always reluctant to put motive to some of these attacks and criticism, I am tempted this time to question why this issue has arisen. Largely because in 2012 and 2013, we did exactly the same thing. And the opposition voted for many of them in the National Assembly. And it is totally within the Constitution. Everything we do it within the Constitution. If you go to Article 218(3) of the Constitution, you will see very, very clearly that the Constitution has given us that right to go to the Constitution and to take these matters to the Parliament, to the National Assembly, to take it back to the National Assembly. So clearly, why are they plugging this line that is unconstitutional when they themselves participated in this process in 2012 and 2013? And they didn't see it as being unconstitutional then. Why are they now branding it unconstitutional? So clearly, and the amount, the money that we're putting back into the system, what are these monies? These monies are the Amerindian Development Fund, and we feel very strongly that we have to put this money to try to develop our interior community, to catch up with the rest of the coastal areas and so forth. It is a lot of the other LCDS. It's the University of Guyana student loans that are being put back. I don't know if that is that is unjustified, that they're ready to vote that out. It is paying salaries to the office of the President. If the executive is to carry out its function effectively on behalf of the nation, we have to put that in place. In fact, I think the cutting of the money for the office of the President was totally unconstitutional on their part. And in fact, if you take me to the court, I'm sure we would have won this issue on this matter. So all this noise that they're making, really, for what purpose? It seems to be some sinister purpose that they have in mind to be making all of these claims. That these things, they did it, they participated with this in 2013 and 2012. And this is all that we're doing again, because the Constitution, and I must say that within the Constitution, we're doing this thing within the Constitution and all of that. I also want to look at some of the distortions that they're talking about, like NISIL. They continue to talk about NISIL and talking about audit of NISIL. NISIL audit is and has been laid into the National Assembly up to 2012. And I haven't heard a single comment on the audits that have been laid in the National Assembly since 2012. I haven't heard them questioning anything on it. Suddenly they're making hue and cry. I think Dr. Luncheon dealt with this issue at his last press conference, pointing out that all the position that NISIL took have been cleared by the government. So I think they're creating all kinds of anomalies and creating all kinds of issues where issues actually don't exist. So I wanted to clear those points up for you, because it is clear to me that they are distorting, and I haven't seen any of the media, and many of you are very experienced people in the media, and I haven't seen anyone in the media pointing out to them that this is totally constitutional, that what they're doing is distortion. So I thought that is why I thought that I should raise that point with you. The other issue I want to raise is, well, you have covered it, and I must say very, very good. All the media have covered it in a very good and positive way. And because I think it is a positive piece of news, the DEA office that will be established here in Guyana. As all of you know, that we have, from the very beginning, we have been pushing that we would like to have a DEA office. I mentioned at that sitting there that fighting drugs is not the task of one country because of the volume of money that is involved in it and the linkages that exist. I just saw you, and I'm sure you all are aware of the statement made by the the Assistant U.S. Secretary of State, when he pointed out that the killing of Dana Seetahal in Trinidad and Tobago was probably ordered from outside of Trinidad and Tobago. So it shows you, it gives you an idea of the globalized nature of the beast that we're dealing with here. And that is why we have always been working to have more international cooperation to deal with this. Now, so we're very happy that the DEA's office is coming. But I would like to also tie that in with the importance that the international community places on the whole question of strengthening our financial system. And in that regard, passing of the AML-CAFT bill is at the core of that development. As I've said, that bill is an anti-corruption bill, and it's an anti-narcotics drugs bill. And if you don't want to support that, then objectively you're on the side of criminals and money launderers and all of that. That is what you're actually defending. And I don't know if that is what is taking place, because we spoke about, I raised with you before how concerned I was about watching the whole issue of the whole question of linkages, that people can begin to start lobbying and buying things of that nature. So that is why I think that this is it could give us much more international cooperation to create a very inhospitable climate here for those who are engaged in any kind of these type of activities. So I wanted to make those points very, very clear. That the government, there's one other issue I want to touch on. All right, but maybe I should stop here. And maybe, I know it's a Saturday and you probably want to get away early. So let me give you the time to ask your questions. I see one, two. Let me talk to the lady first this time. Yeah.
President, FATF did not include Guyana in its public statement. But what Mr. Sheares told the Chronicle is that we will come up for a targeted review, and that the outcomes of that review will be published in October when FATF meets again. What are your comments in terms of the window of opportunity that we have between now and October when FATF meets again?
Okay, what I would say, first of all, is that FATF, if you go on the website, FATF's website, you will see that they said that they have forwarded Guyana's case. They recommended a review of Guyana, and they sent it to FATF, and FATF has accepted that their position. That's what's on the FATF's website, which means that, of course, we're not out of the woods. I don't know what form the review will take. What form the review will take? Probably people will come here to look at these things and so forth. I'm not very clear what form these reviews will take. And then I know that there's another meeting. FATF meets again in October, so I suspect that's where Mr. Shearer was saying that it will, obviously they'll know, since they have that process in train, that they will have to have a report again at that meeting in October. So we're way out of not out of the woods, but we, as you know, we sent Mr. Shearer up to France, because what we are doing, what the government has done and is doing, we are putting all the systems in place that what we have to do, the things that we have to do, the things that are not legislative and more administrative and more in our domain, we are putting them in place. The SOCU will be set up very, very shortly, and all the other measures that has to be put in place has been put in place at this point in time for that. So let's wait a little bit. I mean, I'm not unhappy that our name wasn't mentioned there, but the process still goes on if you go on there.
There's speculation that, okay, Ghana is not blacklisted, so, you know, all this talk by the government that we'll have all these negative impacts on the economy, it doesn't really matter because we're not mentioned.
I don't think that is so. As I tell you, if you look at the FATF website, you will see that they are saying that the process has started in that direction. But that is, I can only go by what is there at this point, and hopefully by next week we'll be more clear on what is taking place. Yes, you want to?
Kian Bober, Kaiser News. Sir, there have been accusations that the Ramotar government has resolutely refused to implement certain reform measures to effectively tackle corruption and ensure transparency. There's also the accusation that the presence of your predecessor, former President Barra Jagdeo, is still evident within the regime. What is your take to this?
You want me to respond to that nonsense?
Yes.
No, I wouldn't pander to that. That's a lot of... the one that you're talking about, the first part of your question,
Yes.
I would say that is not true at all. I think at the last press briefing I told you that I, just days before that meeting, that I had a meeting with all the accounting officers in the government. And I've been insisting on them that, because the very fact that we put so much energy in getting back there after the PNC administration had practically done away with auditing of government books. And we reinstitute it, and every year we're bringing it out. It is a tool to fight corruption. And I have insisted that it must not be left to be a norm. It must not be left to, that they must use it as a tool to fight corruption, to look and answer and deal with all the shortcomings that the Auditor General Office brings out. So we got to look at the tools that we have at our disposal and fight against it resolutely. And that is one of the things that the opposition wants to take away from us, actually. They want to take away the fact that the cabinet must not have a say in the procurement processes anything over $15 million. That is that's one of the tools they want to take away. But as I argued before, that is an executive function, and to fight all of these things that you're talking about, that is it. And the very fact that we want to pass an AML-CFT bill, which I described just now to you as being anti-corruption and anti-criminal, I mean, with all of that, I don't know, you cannot take that statement very seriously, I'm sure. Yes.
A quick follow-up. Other question. There have been criticisms levied against NISIL, particularly its head, Winston Barsington, that he's been acting outside of the mandate.
That is totally untrue. And I think I said Dr. Lunson dealt with that. I saw it in the press, actually, that he dealt with that extensively. And I myself have, on more than one occasion, spoken about it, that this demonization of public servants is a dangerous thing. And I think that it is just an attempt to try to frighten people to work with the government because they're going to want to attack them in all kinds of ways. Bassington is a member of the board of NISIL. He takes direction from the board of NISIL. NISIL board is chaired by the Minister of Finance. The cabinet passes all of these things. So I think it's a very unfair to public servants. Any public servant who seems to be acting professionally seems to be targeted and being attacked viciously. And Bassington is a victim of what appears to be a well-thought-out policy to attack people that are working with government. Yes. Well, look, this man is, let me allow him to speak because I don't want him to say that
I kind of need this thing.
Okay, let me hear you.
Right. Avina Radcliffe, Kaiser News. 2 questions.
Oh, God. All right, but the same thing, yeah?
Yeah,
so,
same thing.
Yeah, Surunduru. Okay.
So, I hope I'm Duro. First, as a follow-up on NISIL, I think his APN News Shadow Minister of Finance, Carl Greenwich, he had taken a motion before the National Assembly with a number of measures for NISIL. Do you think that if the government acts in accordance with this motion, that it will put to rest some of the questions on NISIL?
Let me make this. I don't know what I can't remember the questions that he put about NISIL.
Independent audits and stuff.
NISIL has an independent audit, and it's in the Parliament. So tell me what he's questioning. What is it he questioned? Anybody can come off the road and say, I want an independent audit for this or what. But we have it's an independent audit. Audit is supposed to be independent anyhow. So really, I mean, I don't know how you fall for these things. And when it's clearly, obviously, I have political objectives. It's very, very clear to me that the opposition seems to feel that one of their strong planks that they can push on is try to talk about corruption and keep repeating it as much as possible. The old Gobelians type of tactics, that the more you repeat these things, the more people tend to believe it. So that is all I could say about as far as NISIL's audit are in the National Assembly. Okay. And it's laid before the National Assembly. It's up to date up to 2012.
Correct.
So,
my last question. This past week saw some consultations with UG for the hike in tuition fees. Now, the Vice Chancellor hinted his intention to approach the government for an increase in subvention, and he also pointed out TNT's policy in paying 50% for each student who maintains a good grade point average. Is your government inclined to raise the subvention, 1? And 2, was it ever a consideration to give such, I don't know what to call it, consideration to students who are doing well at the University of Guyana?
Well, I think it's very good that they're doing some public consultation. That's extremely good. So I think that will probably go to the UG board before it reaches to the government with some recommendations. I myself have some ideas of, like what you were saying, how we could use the fee structures to probably develop some of the skills that we badly need and so forth. But let me wait, first of all, for them to come to us with some of these issues and then to have a full discussion, because although I have quite a good idea about those things. I think sometimes you need to have some specialist input on them. So, but I believe that there's a lot we could do probably differently. As far as the increasing of the fees is concerned, and we have to, that's another, we have to study it very carefully. Because we don't want to deny anyone the possibility who got the talent and the qualification to move ahead and have a tertiary education. So these are things that they're quite fluid at the moment. So it's good that it is being discussed in the public, so that when it comes to us, we can have a greater feel of what is taking place. Yeah.
Good afternoon. Latoya Giles, Kaiser News. The Walter Rodney Commission of Inquiry has been extended until September. Could you say if government has put forward more money for the inquiry? Well,
I can't answer you for sure to say if the money that we originally allocated has been exhausted.
112 million.
I don't think it has been exhausted as yet. But obviously, when you have these kind of extension, it probably will cost more money. You know. So, but right now I can't give you a more definite. Sorry, I can't give you a more definite answer than that. I'm saying the money, as far as I'm aware, is not yet exhausted. But obviously, with extension, the possibility of it being exhausted would be there, and we'll probably have to put more money into that. We'll go back to the parliament with it.
Okay. Sir, the last two press conferences you had said that you weren't prepared to talk about NCN. Are you prepared to talk about NCN?
Not yet. Let me deal with these.
Not yet.
Probably, hopefully, by the next time I'll be ready.
Okay. Okay.
I see you're saving my friend from asking the question.
Gary Elias, Kaiser News. Sir, if we could come back to FATF quickly, first of all. What would you say to the average Guyanese man in the street regarding these deadlines? And because every few weeks we hear about the doom and gloom that would happen if we become blacklisted, a deadline come, a deadline go, now we're hearing of another deadline. What would you say to the average Guyanese to show that there is some sense of urgency in having this legislation passed? And
well, listen, it's a good point you're making there, and it's a bit of a dilemma in a way. That these dangers are really real. This is what the procedures that exist in the FATF. But on the other hand, we can't sit on our hands and do nothing about it. So we continue to fight, and we continue to advocate, and we continue to argue that Guyana at this point in time has a unique situation, and in many ways we have been getting some measures of reprieve and so on and so forth. And unfortunately, it is being interpreted and turned around now that we are creating hysteria. We have no such intention. Those things that you talk about are really real. They are really there. But we are continuing to fight as much as we can to see if we, first of all, to pass the bill and to try our best to see if we can be given more time. Because this is a very unique situation. Normally, it is governments that don't want to pass these bills. And they are, I suspect the very fact that the government's position is unambiguous, very clear that we want this bill, and the reason it is not being passed is because the opposition doesn't want the bill. And I suspect a lot of what they're saying, why they don't want the bill, might just know. I'm beginning to form the opinion that the real reason is not what they're saying. Yes, that's that.
Sir, while there is merit in passing this bill, given the size of Guyana's economy, can we really affect any other financial system?
I agree with you fully. I don't have any problem to deal with you. But as I said, this is an international process. These are things that are in the hands of the international community. It's not from me. Those are some of the same arguments that we are making. That you are saying is that's one of the arguments that we are making as well. So it's not totally in our hands. The decisions are taken at CFATF and FATF levels.
The money that the statement of excess, you make mention of Constitution 218, Article 218, but the finance minister, the finance minister is relying on the Section 4, one of the Fiscal Management Accountability
Act.
Act.
Conforms more.
Which...
It's not a contradiction.
No, what I'm getting at, the money spent was money that was disapproved. And the FMA is talking about unforeseen, unavoidable.
No. Let me. If you read it, the act, if you go back and read the act, it is clear that all the money that has gone back to the Parliament is covered by our Constitution. All of it is covered. There's nothing. And if the opposition got any doubt, let them take us to the court. We have a court. We have a constitutional court. We have a court that deals with constitutional issues. So if you don't think, or you can, I see one of them taking the Marriott to the court. So let them go to the court and let the court determine if it's constitutional or not. Okay.
Mr. President, Trace Romalo from NCN. There is much talk about government will be taking legal action against parliamentary decisions. Can you please respond? Parliamentary decisions, government taking legal actions. Can you please respond? And two, what the opposition be saying that the government and the finance ministry has been abusing, or the finance minister has been abusing the contingencies fund. Can you respond? Well,
I think I responded to the last part of your question already in my answer just now, that there's nothing that we're doing illegally. These are things that the Constitution allows us to do, the laws of our country allows us to do. And I mentioned to you some of these things that are really urgent. Fees for university students. Loan for putting the university student loans, one. Secondly, Amerindian Development Fund. Thirdly, staffing at the executive. How the executive will carry out their function. And many others, developmental projects like where we already have contracts that the opposition voted for in the past, like the airport, like the hospital, where they voted for it in the past. And you have contracts on these things. So how do you deal with that? Should we break the contracts? Look at some of the dilemma that we're in. The court, the Caribbean court, have put a big fine on us. We have been trying to get the Parliament to pass this legislation to equalize the rates on the environmental tax rate, lowering it and try to equalize it right across the board. The opposition voted against it and cost us this huge amount of money that the Caribbean court has made on us. So these things, I think, are necessary for the functioning from two points of view. One, for the welfare of people, for their people's welfare. And secondly, for the functioning of the state. Yes.
Yes.
And what? Oh, that one, I don't know whether to express dismay or to laugh on that one. Because particularly when it comes from the people who are much more learned in the law than I am, to say that we're taking, where else should we go if there's a constitutional issue? By going to the courts, we try to avoid a constitutional issue. That is what we're doing. We're trying to avoid a constitutional dilemma, constitutional problem by going to the court. Now that you've done your consultation, do you want to ask anything else?
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. We're almost finished with half of the year. We enter in July. The issue of gold, the declarations, the projected revenues from that. Rice has been doing pretty okay. Sugar, we're looking at that. And the other areas, the other sectors. Could you say what exactly is happening to our economy at the moment and for the projections?
I think the half-year review will come out very soon. But you're right, there's a serious issues. The gold in particular is a serious economic issue. I noticed that the price has been coming up a bit. So I hope that if it is maintained, if it comes up, that we can probably do far better in the last part of the year. And hopefully that declaration will also go up in that regard that we can do better. But let's wait for the mid-year review that will be coming up shortly.
Ruben Stobie, Guyana Times. Sir, could you say if that memorandum of agreement has been prepared following WICB's visit, and how that meeting would have gone in government's view?
I'm going to sign the bill. As soon as it comes on my desk, I'm ready to sign the cricket bill. If there is any kind of compromise agreed by everyone in the place, they can do an amendment if they want. I'm not, we are going to sign the bill into the law as soon as it comes to my desk. All right. So the agreement, I think that's a separate issue that is being done by Frank and the Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture and the Attorney General. But we are going to move ahead with our legislation.
Mr. President, let's start with news. There have been reports of Afghanis being harassed by Venezuelan soldiers inside Afghanis territory in the Northwest District. What action is being done by our administration in relation to this?
All right. Our security forces are on it. I've been having some, waiting for some more definitive type of reports. I've heard about it myself, but I could assure you that the security forces are looking at this.
Secondly, very soon lands for mining are going to be opened up. How do you balance this, which will cause more deforestation, with Guyana's commitments, particularly under the Norway Partnership, and our international advocacy for the protection of forests?
Our forests is monitored very closely. We are trying our best to minimize some of the huge destruction of the forest by trying to give more information and so forth about any kind of studies about soils and so forth. And when people are mining, to try to mine it as close as possible to the vicinity of the area that they're going to be looking at. So I think one of the areas that we'll be probably looking at is to do more kind of the prospecting beforehand, so that you can have a better idea about what to do. But we are very mindful of that, and we are trying to work as much as possible. You know that I've already told the miners at the conference that they had, and I think it was reported in the press, that we are going to help as much as we can with small miners to do the reparatory work in small mining areas. For medium-scale people, we hope that they will stand part of the expense, and we will probably provide some material. And for the large-scale people, that they will have to do it all themselves to restore the forest. So it's a combination of one, trying to minimize as much the areas that could be damaged, and how we try to do things in a better way than how we used to do it in the past, and at the same time to try to monitor very carefully that it's not done in any big and excessive way.
For the year 2012, the third year of the Guyana-Norway Partnership, there still has been no money paid over to Guyana, and the last word was...
Well, some of it, 80 million would have come if we had the Amila going. No, 80 million would have been paid. That was part of that money. It's going to projects. Not true. Some of it are going to some of these Amerindian development funds. Some of it will be coming to be doing to the Cunha Canal. That will save a lot of people from flooding and open more agricultural lands and so forth. But the big amount that we want come, it was 80 million would have gone to Amila in that regard.
Specifically for year 3, year up to last month.
We probably have to look at other projects too, to put some of these money into. There are some that I have in mind, but we have to look at other projects so that we can. This money is coming in, and we're putting it directly into projects. That I said 80 million was supposed to be going to Amila, 80 million US from that fund, part of our equity into that process.
I'm referring specifically to transfers from Norway.
Yeah. But you know the process. Hold a minute. You know how the process is doing. It's not coming directly from Norway to here. It's coming from the Norway, I think, to the IDB, and then from the IDB, as you have the projects, it will come here. That's the process, how it's going through. So you wouldn't have any coming directly from Norway to here. The procedure is clear. It's not coming straight from Norway to here. It's coming through the IDB and then here.
Can you say why discussions are taking so long for year 3 between Ghana?
Well, that is one of the frustrations we have been arguing about as well. One time we had argued that, but then we had the commitment that this money was going to Amila. The Norwegians had agreed to that. Everything else was in place, but we have a temporary hold up on that project. So it will still be coming.
So for any extension of the partnership, have discussions started because it ends next year?
Yes, we will. I think begin more extensive discussion when we meet at when the UN General Assembly meets in September. So I think we can have much more detailed discussions there. There's a big just before the UN General Assembly, there's a huge discussion on internationally environmental issues. So on the sidelines of that, we will have more discussions in that regard.
One final question, sir. You've spoken about corruption, but in relation to this specific case, for the past 2 years, you've been saying that in the next press conference, you will reveal
you can't resist that.
But it has been 2 years. So
Yeah.
you're saying that you're
No, I agree. But because I think a lot of the issues, in a way, has been resolved. The CEO is not there. The other thing, they have not been there and so. But we'll get to that. I promise you. All right.
President, could you please comment on the U.S. State Department report
The what?
on the trafficking in persons?
Oh, I haven't read it in detail myself as yet. I saw the ministry's response, and I think the ministry would be very or more exact, because that's they're following that on a daily basis. What I can tell you is that we are, put it this way, you'll be pushing us an open door when you come to us to fight against these things. We do not want these things in our society. We are fighting them. The whole question about the laws, we have to also respect our laws. We take the separation of powers very, very seriously. So if the court is dealing with the matter, then I don't think you will want to ask the executive to disregard the procedures of the court in some of these issues. So if I gather from just reading the press very quickly that the fact that 3 of the people who have been convicted are on bail is an issue, but that is something that the government, the executive, doesn't have control of. All right. All right then.
Mr. President, one last question, if you don't mind. If I could take you back to a statement you made a few days ago regarding the AFC's statements over a no confidence motion. You had said that the government will not be threatened. The APNU on Friday said this is something that they're considering also, and the AFC in a follow-up issued a 10-point demand. What are your comments on these demands and APNU support?
Say exactly what I said. This is not. This is the opposition. If they want to bring a no confidence motion, I can't stop them from bringing a no confidence motion, but I'll be ready to face the consequences of that.
Okay, sir.
All right. Let's call it a day. You want to give it one go?
Thank you very much. There have been talks about a flooding of the market with all these aircrafts that are coming on. You subsequently met with aircraft owners. What are some of the concerns raised in your meeting with them? And is there any anything to stipulate the amount of aircraft that will be operating on Guyana's market at once?
I didn't meet with the aircraft association. I met with different airline people coming in and visiting me and so forth. But Guyana got an open policy on the airlines. I mean, everybody talk about competition, and when they get competition, they start complaining sometimes. But we have an open policy. You know, when we don't have enough airlines, we have problem with fare going up, and now I think we see airlines coming in, and that is helping to bring fares down. The danger that you express is not is not one to be ignored, what you're saying, that you don't want to also to oversaturate the market. But our policy, we have an open policy, and the market will probably regulate that issue. And I think it probably forces the airline to be more creative, to look for other routes, probably going more south and all of that. So all I can tell you is our policy at the moment is the open skies policy. Thank you very much.